Good day, grade 11 learners, and welcome to this video where we will be looking at section A questions of your paper 1 of a grade 11 life sciences final exam. Please note that these questions are taken from previous exam question papers, so you are going to be exposed to the correct levels of skills that you need to grasp in order for you to achieve your ultimate best in your final examination. The topics which you should be studying for your Life Sciences Paper 1 exam should be firstly photosynthesis, cellular respiration, animal nutrition, gases exchange, as well as excretion in humans. So we'll first be looking at questions that are taken from section A, as I've mentioned, and we'll first start off with our multiple choice questions. So generally, this is the instruction that you should receive in any multiple choice question. It's normally your 1.1 question of the paper 1 exam. So it should state various options are provided as possible answers to the following questions. Choose the correct answer and write only the letter, which should be A to D, next to the question number in your answer book. For example, you will write 1.1.11, and if your correct option is D, you simply write D next to the answer in your, next to the question in your answer booklet. Please make sure that when you are writing down your answers to question 1.1 in your final exam, please make sure that you only place one correct letter next to your question number. Do not have more than one correct letter. So for example, don't write D/A. The examiner will not be able to mark something like that. So next to the question number, you are only placing one correct letter. It's either option A, B, C, or D. So if we go to this first question, it says, which of the following is a requirement in the dark phase of photosynthesis? Radiant energy, oxygen, carbon dioxide, or water? So we are looking at the dark phase of photosynthesis. Radiant energy is required in the light phase of photosynthesis. Oxygen is released as a product of photosynthesis. It's released during the light phase. Carbon dioxide is a requirement for the dark phase. Water is a requirement for photosynthesis, but it's not required in the dark phase. Therefore, the correct option is C, carbon dioxide. The blood tissue that transports oxygen, is it white blood cells, red blood cells, platelets, or carb hemoglobin? So we are transporting oxygen. Remember that oxygen is going to be transported in the form of hemoglobin, and it's going to be transported in red blood cells. Therefore, the correct option is B. What structures offers protection to the lungs, the alveoli, the bronchi, the villi, or the pleural membranes? Now, there's generally two things that's offering protection to the lungs. It's the pleural membrane and it's the rib cage. Therefore, the only correct option is option D, the pleural membrane. The characteristics listed below are all applicable to chloroplasts. Contain the outer and inner membrane. Contain a fluid matrix with enzymes. Contain the granum. Contain a green pigment called chlorophyll. Contain starch granules. Which combination of characteristics make the chloroplast suitable to perform its function? And remember that the ultimate function of the chloroplast is to undergo that process of photosynthesis. So which of the combinations is going to make the chloroplast suitable to perform its function? So let's go from the start. Contains the outer and inner membrane. Is that going to help to make the chloroplast functional? No. Contain a fluid matrix with enzymes. the enzymes are definitely going to be useful in photosynthesis. So number 2 is correct. Contain the granum. Yes, it requires the granum in the light phase. Contain a green pigment called chlorophyll. Definitely, because chlorophyll is a requirement. Contain starch granules. You are not going to use the starch granules in the process of photosynthesis, which is the function of the chloroplast. Therefore, number 2, number 3, and number 4 is correct. So now we look number 2, number 3, and number 4 is option B, and therefore B is the correct answer. Please make sure that when you're answering a question similar to this, that gives you a list of items and thereafter options A, B, and C, you go through the entire list of items and you approach it in a similar way to which I did now. You go through each step and you place a tick or a cross next to each one. You then take the combination of items, you move down to the bottom and you see which one gives you the correct combination. You then select that as your correct answer. During inhalation of air into the lungs, now remember inhalation is the process in which air is taken into the lungs. The volume of the thoracic cavity increases and the pressure decreases. The volume of the thoracic cavity decreases and the pressure increases. The volume and pressure within the thoracic cavity remains the same. The pressure within the thoracic cavity remains constant irrespective of the change in volume. The correct option is therefore A. The volume of the thoracic cavity increases and the pressure decreases because we are in the process of inhalation. Questions 1.1.5 and 1.1.6 are based on the table below. So we're going to base 1.1.5 and 1.1.6 on this table. What do we notice in the table? We have different gases: oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and water vapor. We then have the concentration of inhaled air versus air that you are taking into your lungs. And then you have your concentration of exhaled air, which is air that comes out of the lungs. 1.1.5 states the reason for the amount of nitrogen being the same in inhaled and exhaled air. So you see the nitrogen concentration remains the same, it stays 78. And the reason for that is that nitrogen is taken into the bloodstream and the same amount diffuses back to the alveoli to be breathed out. This was not a statement that we learned about in gas exchange, so therefore it's possibly not correct. Nitrogen gas does not reach the alveoli, but remains in the bronchiole until exhalation occurs. This was not the statement that we learned about. Nitrogen gas is used in the body, but the same amount is produced in the body as a waste product, which is then exhaled. This was also not a statement we learned. Nitrogen cannot be absorbed by the body in its gaseous form. So the amount inhaled is the same as the amount exhaled. That most likely can be correct. So therefore, the correct option is D. 1.1.6 states, why is the amount of water in exhaled air more than in inhaled air? So the amount of water vapor, why is it more in exhaled air compared to in inhaled air? Option A, water from the cells is excreted as water vapor. Blood plasma leaks into the alveoli, which is then excreted as water vapor. These were two statements which we never touched on and generally does not seem correct according to the question. A small amount of water produced during cellular respiration is excreted. Is water generally a product of cellular respiration? Yes, it is. Therefore, C could possibly be correct. The respiratory surface must be kept moist at all times, and some of this moisture evaporates and is exhaled. That cannot be correct. Therefore, the correct option is C. During exhalation of air out of the lungs, the volume of the thoracic cavity increases and pressure decreases. That's incorrect because the volume of the thoracic cavity increases in inhalation. The volume of the thoracic cavity decreases and pressure increases. That could possibly be correct. The volume and the pressure within the thoracic cavity remains the same. It does not remain the same in inhalation. Neither does it remain the same in exhalation. The pressure within the thoracic cavity remains constant irrespective of the change in volume. Therefore, the correct option is B. Plants use oxygen. Do plants use oxygen during the day only? Continuously, that means during the day and at night only, or during the light phase only. Now let's go back to what we're actually looking at here. Plants using oxygen. In which process do plants use oxygen? First ask yourself that question. Plants use oxygen not in the process of photosynthesis, but in the process of cellular respiration. When plants are breaking down glucose in order to give them energy, that is when they are using oxygen. Cellular respiration is a process that takes place continuously. Your body is undergoing cellular respiration during the day and at night. Therefore, the correct option is B. It cannot only be during the day. It cannot be at night only. It's not in the light phase only. These options could possibly have been considered if the focus was on photosynthesis, but we are looking at oxygen. Oxygen is used in the process of cellular respiration, and cellular respiration occurs during the day and at night. Therefore, the correct option is B, continuously. The chemical substance used to extract chlorophyll from leaves. Chemical substance used to extract chlorophyll. Sodium bicarbonate. Now, what is sodium bicarbonate used for? Sodium bicarbonate is going to be used in an experiment to help to add carbon dioxide to the specific experiment. Clear lime water. When did we speak about clear lime water? Clear lime water was spoken of when we looked at an experiment to check if carbon dioxide is released as a byproduct of cellular respiration. Therefore, we can conclude that neither of these two options, option A or option B, could possibly be correct. Ethanol. What is ethanol used for? Ethanol is used to remove and extract chlorophyll from the leaves of plants, which coincides with the question. Lastly, hydrochloric acid. This was focused on in animal nutrition. We did not speak about hydrochloric acid in photosynthesis. Therefore, the correct option is C, ethanol. Question 1.1.4 states study the list of processes associated with the human digestive system. Detoxification, deamination, emulsification, peristalsis. These are all things that happen in the human digestive system. Which one of the following combination describes the digestive functions of a human liver? So I'm going to go back to the question. We're going to highlight the things that are important. Which one of the following combinations best describes the digestive functions of the human liver? So you now need to think, what is the functions of the human liver? So some of the basic functions could be the deamination of excess amino acids into urea, detoxifying harmful substances, storing vitamins and minerals. Those are some of the functions that we learned about with regards to the liver. So now you look, detoxification, detoxifying harmful substances. Yes, that's correct. Deamination, it deaminates excess amino acids into urea. That's correct. Emulsification, it detoxifies and emulsifies fats. So yes, that's correct. Peristalsis, does it undergo the process of peristalsis in the liver? Definitely not. Peristalsis is a type of movement There were two types of movement we learned about in animal nutrition. It was peristaltic movements and churning movements. That is not a function of the liver. So now we have number 1, number 2, and number 3. Let's look if there's an option for number 1, 2, and 3. Yes, C as number 1, 2, and 3. Therefore, the correct answer to the question is C. In which region of the kidney contains the renal pyramids? So we are looking at the renal pyramids. Is it the medulla, the cortex, the ileum, or the pelvis? It's found in the medulla. Therefore, A is the correct answer. The products of protein digestion. The products of protein digestion. When you're breaking down proteins, proteins are broken down into amino acids. Therefore, A is most likely correct. Fatty acids, no. Glycerol, no. Simple sugars, no. Therefore, A is the correct answer. 1.1.2, the blood vessel that transports blood with oxygen and nutrients into the kidney. The blood vessel that transports blood with oxygen and nutrients into the kidney. So it's either going to be the renal artery or the renal vein. Option A is renal artery, possibly correct. Superior vena cava, pelvis, or renal vein. The correct answer is A. We are now going to move on to giving the correct biological term for the following descriptions. So please remember that when you are answering a question like this, question 1.2, your terminology questions, you will simply place the question number 1.2.1 with your answer in your answer booklet. You do not write anything else. So you write only the term next to the question number in your answer book. Firstly, the splitting of water during the light phase of photosynthesis is referred to as photolysis. Secondly, the cartilaginous structure that contains the vocal cords is the larynx. The tube that transports urine from the bladder to the exterior is the urethra. The main form in which carbon dioxide is transported in the blood is bicarbonate ions. The phase of aerobic respiration, which occurs in the cytoplasm, is glycolysis. The structural and functional unit of the human kidney is the nephron. The removal of metabolic waste products from living organisms is excretion. The cartilaginous structure that contains the vocal cords is the larynx. The acid that accumulates in the muscles of humans during continuous, strenuous physical activity is lactic acid. The chewing process that breaks down food molecules up mechanically, that chewing process in your mouth, is mastication. The final hydrogen acceptor during cellular respiration. Now remember, in cellular respiration you have oxidative phosphorylation. In oxidative phosphorylation, towards the end of the process, the final hydrogen acceptor is going to be oxygen. The process by which the body eliminates undigested waste products, that is known as egestion. A protective membrane surrounding the lungs is the pleural membrane. The double-walled cup-shaped structure that surrounds the glomerulus is the Bowman's capsule. The part of the lung where gases exchange takes place. Inside the lungs, gas exchange takes place in the alveoli. The pores on the leaves of plants through which gas exchange takes place. So the plants are going to have pores known as stomatal pores. The tissue making up the rings that surrounds the trachea. Tissue making up the rings that surrounds the trachea. Those rings that surrounds the trachea are in the form of C-shaped cartilage rings. The next question focuses on question 1.3, indicating whether each of the statements in column 1 applies to A only, B only, both A and B, or none of the items in column 2. Write A only, B only, both A and B, or none next to the question number. Please make sure that your answer complies to the instruction given in the question. So on your answer sheet, you will write 1.3.1 and you will only say A only, B only, both A and B, or none. You cannot simply put A, you cannot simply put B. Make sure that you are answering it as A only, B only, both A and B, or none. So the first one says the molecule that carries energy, ATP or ADP. So energy is carried in the form of ATP, therefore A only is the correct answer. 1.3.2, the acid secreted in the stomach during digestion, fatty acid or HCl, which is hydrochloric acid. Fatty acid is not secreted in the stomach, but hydrochloric acid is secreted in the stomach, therefore B only is the correct answer. 1.3.3, the place in the human digestive system where the most absorption of digested food takes place. Remember that absorption takes place in the small intestine. Option A is the stomach and option B is the large intestine. Neither of these two options are correct. Therefore, the answer is none. The type of energy stored in food molecules during photosynthesis. The type of energy stored in food molecules. So stored in food molecules. Chemical energy or potential energy. Please be careful here. Chemical energy is used in the process of photosynthesis. Potential energy is a type of energy that is stored in food molecules. Therefore, B only is the correct answer. Potential energy. The site of cellular respiration. Site means the place where cellular respiration takes place. Cellular respiration takes place in the mitochondria. It does not take place in the chloroplast. Therefore, the correct answer is A only. The decomposition of glucose in a living cell, when you break down glucose in a living cell, is it a catabolic reaction or is it the anabolic reaction? Anabolic reaction is when you are building up something. Catabolic reaction, when you are breaking it down. Decomposition of glucose is breaking down glucose. Therefore, B is correct. And the correct answer is B only. We will now look at short questions that could possibly pop up in a section A of your paper 1. So the first question we will look at is taken from a 1.5 question. It says the diagram below represents the human urinary system. So you can see here is the human urinary system. Firstly, we are labeling parts G. So we can look at part G in the diagram. There is part G. It's a tube that is eventually going to allow everything to leave the kidney. The tube that transports everything out of the kidney is regarded as the renal vein. Label F, we go look at label F. It points to the section directly underneath the bladder, which is referred to as the urethra. Question 1.5.2 says, give the letter, you need to give the letter and the name. Please make sure you answer the question according to the instruction given, the letter and the name. Not only the letter, not only the name. You notice that these questions out of 2 marks. So 1 mark goes to the letter, the second mark goes to providing the name. Firstly, the part that collects and stores urine temporarily. The part that collects and stores urine temporarily. This part will collect and store urine temporarily, which is going to be part E, the bladder. Notice how we give the letter and we give the name so that we can get 2 marks for the question. We don't only want 1 mark. The blood vessel that transports oxygenated blood directly into the kidney. Taking oxygenated blood into the kidney. Here is the tube that's taking it into the kidney. The label is C and the answer is the renal artery. The tube that transports urine from the kidney to part E. Here is the kidney going down to part E. That is the tube. The tube is labeled D. And what is labeled D? It is the ureter. The next question is also a question taken from 1.5. It says the following diagram illustrates some investigations carried out on photosynthesis. The plant was kept in the dark for 48 hours before being placed in sunlight. And here you have the apparatus to investigate aspects of photosynthesis. You have leaf A, you have leaf B, that has been part of leaf B, has been covered in aluminium foil. Then lastly, you have leaf C. In the bowel jar, we have potassium hydroxide solution. Remember that potassium hydroxide solution is going to be there. It's going to help to absorb carbon dioxide from within the bowel jar. But if we had sodium bicarbonate would have been there to add carbon dioxide to the bowel jar. So the first question, question 1.5.1 says state the aim of the investigation for leaf A. So in leaf A, we are stating the aim. We look at leaf A and we're trying to see what is happening around leaf A. Firstly, we see leaf A is placed inside the bowel jar. What is happening inside the bowel jar? You have potassium hydroxide solution. Potassium hydroxide solution is trying to remove all the carbon dioxide from the bowel jar. So what could the aim possibly be? To determine if carbon dioxide is required in the process of photosynthesis. That was one of the experiments you would have touched on when you looked at practical investigations on photosynthesis. Secondly, for leaf B, we'll go look at leaf B. We see that leaf B, part of leaf B is covered in aluminium foil. That is a dead giveaway that the aim is to determine if light is essential in the process of photosynthesis. 1.5.2 states why was the plant kept in the dark for 48 hours before being placed in sunlight? Why was the plant kept in the dark for 48 hours before being placed in sunlight? 1 mark for the question. So why do you think the plant is placed in the dark? The reason why we place the plant in a dark cupboard for 48 hours is simply to de-starch a plant. You want to prevent the process of photosynthesis from occurring before you start your investigation. 1.5.3, what is the purpose of the potassium hydroxide solution? 1 mark. We said potassium hydroxide is going to absorb carbon dioxide from the bowel jar. 1.5.4, the following question refers to the method used to test the leaves A, B, and C for the presence of starch. So you're testing leaves A, B, and C for the presence of starch. Please make sure that you highlight the important aspects of the question on your question paper. Exactly like I am doing, it will really assist you. So firstly, provide 2 reasons for the leaf being boiled in a beaker of water. There is 2 marks for the question. 2 reasons why you will boil the leaf in water. Firstly, you are going to soften the tissues in the leaf. Secondly, you are going to break down the cell walls. Those are 2 reasons as to why you place the leaf in boiling water. Secondly, state the color change that occurred if a positive test for starch was observed. 1 mark. Color change if a positive test for starch was observed. What should the color change be? Iodine solution should change from brown to blue-black. The next question is also taken from 1.5. It states the diagram below represents a section through an alveolus and surrounding blood capillary in the human body. So we're looking at the alveolus and the surrounding blood capillary in the human body. This is the diagram we are studying. We have an arrow going in, an arrow going out. We have part A with a big arrow pointing in to a circular shaped structure, big arrow pointing out, part B, arrow pointing into, moving from the alveolus into the surrounding blood capillary, and another arrow pointing out. Certain things are labeled 1, 2, and 3. 1.5.1, name the type of epithelial tissue, numbered 1 and 2, only for 1 mark. Number 1 and number 2, this type of epithelial tissue here is referred to as squamous epithelium. So 1.5.1, squamous epithelium. 1.5.2, identify the blood cell, numbered 3, just for 1 mark. So you go to number 3. This blood cell here is going to be known as the red blood cell, or you can say the erythrocytes. 1.5.3, describe the difference in the composition of blood entering at A and leaving at B, for 2 marks. The difference in the composition of blood here entering at A and leaving at B. The blood that enters at A generally has a high concentration of carbon dioxide, but the blood leaving at B has a high concentration of oxygen. Therefore, the blood at A is referred to as deoxygenated blood, while B comprises of oxygenated blood. So that brings us to the end of this video, where we looked at possible questions that could be asked in your Life Sciences Paper 1, focusing on section A of the question paper. Just a quick recap, please ensure that when you are studying for your paper 1 of your grade 11 final exam for Life Sciences, you are focusing on the following topics: photosynthesis, animal nutrition, cellular respiration, gases exchange, and excretion in humans. Thank you very much for taking your time to watch this video. I wish you everything of the best for your upcoming final examination.